Why it's important? Because the illicit trafficking of cultural goods undermines common memory and identity, as well as our knowledge of the past and our history. The looting and theft of cultural objects, phenomena at the basis of the illicit trafficking, lead to a loss of particular objects that represent our identity, our history and legacy, either in the collective sphere, if we think of an object which can represent an entire specific society, but also in the individual sphere, if the artifact is linked more particularly to our personal history, perhaps to our family. And at the same time, the looting of archaeological objects on a site is also a big scientific loss because archaeological looting involves the extraction of objects without the methods specific to archaeology that make it possible to document and reconstruct the context in which the object is found, its environment, its history, and the features of the ancient society which manufactured, used, exchanged this object. So if we loot, we destroy this context and we lose all scientific information that would allow us to reconstruct the dynamics of the past. And finally, we must not forget the ethical reasons, because looting and illicit trafficking can be linked to violent realities which endanger the lives of people, for instance, in conflict countries, and then can exploit situation of poverty in more fragile countries. So it's also a very important reason. I'm an archaeologist specialized in Mesoamerican archaeology and also in the protection of cultural heritage in fragile contexts. That is to say, those contexts where there are unstable situations for different reasons, whether economic, political, religious. So I work at different levels, ranging from scientific research to the implementation of specific preventive measures on archaeological sites in danger. And at the academic level, I study the dynamics of destruction of archaeological heritage in Latin America, in particular in Mexico and Guatemala. And I study the looting phenomenon in order to characterize it, define the means put in place, the tools they used, the sociological, economic, and political context related to these practices, in order to develop a better knowledge of these practices, of the trends, the specificities, to produce scientific data for law enforcement and also policymakers. And I also work a lot with local population communities living on archaeological sites to support them to set up preventive systems for the protection of their cultural heritage, awareness-raising activities, and to create alternatives to looting and trafficking activities.
Merci.
It's a very broad question that can have many answers depending on the level of action and the types of actors involved. But if I can answer as an academic, I think we need to develop more long-term research on the different topics and the phenomena that make up the illicit trafficking of cultural goods, know it better to better address it, as we do for other global challenges such as climate change, for instance. It is essential to create knowledge and scientific data that can also help in the development of prevention tools, whether using new technologies or artificial intelligence, but we need also reliable data to support decision-making processes, to develop more efficient, effective policies and action on the field. And there is also a need for more coordination among the different actors, the different projects, more communication to act jointly. And finally, I believe that raising awareness on the subject at all levels is key, as well as fostering the involvement of local population that have a direct and daily contact with the heritage to protect, with the aim of empowering them to find sustainable solutions that can cope with complex realities and that can help to prevent cultural goods trafficking.